If you're moving to Salem, Oregon, you are probably researching what it's like to live here, and as part of that research, you're probably noticing some reviews that aren't very good, and maybe those reviews are making you doubt your own decision to relocate to Salem. So in this video, I'm going to go over the worst reviews of Salem, Oregon found on niche.com and give you my perspective as somebody who is also relocated here. I'm starting off with the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2, and then the 1-star reviews. So stick around until the end so that you can hear the worst of the worst about living in Salem, Oregon. The first 5-star review we have says, "It's pretty good here. My favorite part is just how close to everything you are. Only about an hour away from Portland, the beach, and the mountains. A couple of more hours, and you've got the desert." From my perspective as somebody who relocated to Salem, this review is spot on. One of the best aspects of living in Salem is that it is so conveniently located to literally everything. In just an hour, you can be at the Oregon coast, to Portland, to the mountains, or you can find yourself in a vineyard in the heart of the Willamette Valley. My husband and I love taking quick drives to the Oregon coast, bringing a picnic and sitting our tookies on the beach to watch the waves. And I know a lot of you who are watching this video are from areas that might have lake access or beach access, which is great. But one aspect of Oregon coast that a lot of my YouTube clients mention is just how cold the water is here off of the Pacific Ocean. We have so many great beaches and even a handful of lakes here in Oregon, but the water is so cold no matter the time of year. Now, another highlight of this comment, which is coming up a lot more with my clients and is part of the reason why I left Portland, is that no one wants to deal with big city problems and the issues that Portland is experiencing right now. The difficult thing about Portland is that it has a lot of great restaurants and entertainment and things to do, but right now it's not really the most desirable place for people to be living. So having Portland and all of these positive things still within an hour's drive of Salem is a huge highlight. But the biggest highlight of all is that you don't have to worry about those big city problems when you live in a place like Salem. You can dip in and out of Portland at your leisure and leave those big city problems behind. Here in Oregon, we have quite a few mountains, and the closest one is going to be Mount Hood, which is just over an hour's drive from Salem. But if you're somebody who likes to ski, snowboard, or even sled, you are going to find that Mount Hood is going to be a really fun mountain for you to go play on. And it's great because it's a winter wonderland, but there's also a lot of summer activities up on the mountain, and of course there's going to be a lot of great hikes up there as well. So the fact that we have all of these different amenities within an hour's drive from Salem makes Salem a very desirable place to live because it's such a great launching pad to outdoor recreation and just everything that Oregon has to offer. The next 5-star review says, "I like that in Salem, everybody knows everybody. There's great food and a lot of fun things to do. Plus, we're close to the ski mountains, hiking trails, and the beach. The only thing that I would like to see improved in Salem is the homeless issue." This person's review brings up a really great point that I actually personally have an issue with, and that's the fact that everybody knows everybody here in Salem. This was a completely new concept to me as somebody who had relocated here and didn't know a single person. Salem has a very small town vibe, even though it has under 200,000 people. And that means that everybody truly does know everybody. And quite frankly, that can be pretty darn uncomfortable when you're coming from a place where you have a lot of anonymity and people don't know who you are when you're just walking into a coffee shop or down the street. Another aspect of this is that Salem can feel very cliquey. And for me, it took me a long time to find my tribe of people who I connected with because it was really hard to break into the social crowds around Salem. And once again, the fact that everybody knows everybody and a lot of people were born and raised in Salem and just never left means that it can be hard for a lot of people who are relocating to get into that inner circle and that inside scoop. But I do promise, with enough time and effort, you can find your people here in Salem. If a weirdo Portland gal like myself can find my tribe of people, you can too. This reviewer also addressed that they would like to see the homeless issues improved in Salem. This is a topic that comes up a lot with people who are relocating from bigger cities and are trying to get away from the homeless issues and crisis that so many of our big cities are struggling with right now. I relocated from Portland, where the issues of homelessness have been a struggle for almost my entire lifetime. So from my perspective, coming from a bigger city like Portland and relocating to Salem, I've actually found that the homeless population and crisis and the gravity of it is a lot less than what I was accustomed to. But if you are somebody who is relocating from a smaller town where you've never seen the effects of homelessness, it is probably going to surprise you when you see it for the first time here in Salem. Okay, let's move on to our first 4-star review. This 4-star review says, Salem is a great city to go to college. It offers many local job opportunities for people with little to no experience and is beautiful for 4 months out of the year. Everything is 20-minute drive and primarily safe as long as you don't mind the homeless people everywhere. This person brings up another great point, that Salem is a city that actually has a college located right in the heart of downtown across from the Oregon State Capitol building. Now, this university is called Willamette University, and it is pretty small, but although it's located right downtown, it actually doesn't have too big of an impact on the downtown center overall. Salem does not feel like a university town, especially when we compare it to places like Eugene, Oregon, or Corvallis, Oregon, where our largest universities in Oregon are located. This person also mentions that Salem is beautiful for 4 months out of the year. Now, this might sound really scary because you might be wondering, like, well, what the heck does it look like for the other 8 months out of the year? And at this point in the video, this is where I need to tell you that yes, we have about 8 to 9 months of rain and colder weather here in Oregon. But guys, the thing is, that's why Oregon is so green. When it becomes summertime here and the sun is out doing its sunny thing and the rain is no longer here, everything comes into bloom so quickly and everyone goes outside to take advantage of the sun and the beautiful weather. But if you are not prepared for the rainy days that take up the majority of the year here, you are going to have a little bit of a hard time adapting to the weather here in Salem. And you can also expect that in the winter time, on the shortest day of the year, the sun sets around 4:30 p.m. and in the summertime, it doesn't set around until like 9:30-ish p.m. on the longest day. So if you're not used to seasonality in terms of weather and you're not used to seasonality in terms of the sun, buckle up, baby, because it's going to take you for a wild ride the first time you experience the winter here. Overall, you just need to prepare yourself for a lot of rain, and then for 3 to 4 months out of the year, it's going to be really intense and so fucking beautiful. If you've learned anything new in this video about Salem, give me a thumbs up and comment down below what that new piece of information is that you've just learned. Now let's talk about our first 3-star review. We're getting into the rocky roads of the review land here. First 3-star review says, I've lived in Salem my whole life and I've seen it change. There are definitely better restaurants and bars compared to 20 years ago. But like every growing city, there are a lot more homeless people. Even with the homeless issues, I feel safe walking around downtown. The restaurant and bar scene here in Salem, yes, has gotten much better throughout the 20 years of existence. But in my opinion, coming from a place like Portland, which is known for being like a foodie heaven, Salem is severely lacking on the restaurant and bar scene. And I thought because Salem was so close to Portland that there would be a lot of funky restaurants that were from Portland that just kind of trickled down to Salem. That's just not the case, not at all. In the 5 years that I've lived in Salem, I have seen some great restaurants come and go, some stick around, some just go, belly up. But overall, the restaurants that are here are they're just okay. They're just not to the quality of Portland foodie standards. If you are a food snob, self-admitted food snob, you need to go find yourself a drink at Ritter's, dinner at Cozy Taberna, and then you wake up the next morning a little hungover and go get your tookie over to Mana, which is a bakery that is so fucking good. Those are my 3 favorite places to go. So other than that, I just feel like the bars and restaurants, they're just okay. So if you're like me, coming from a bigger city where you have a lot of fun, cool restaurants and bars to choose from when you go out for date night or just with your girlfriends, you are going to need to readjust your expectations, friends. Something that this reviewer also mentioned was that even though there's a homeless issue, they still feel safe walking around downtown. Now, this is a question that I get a lot from my clients. Is Salem safe or not? But because of my licensing as a real estate agent, I can't really tell you if Salem is safe or not. You need to determine that for yourself. But what I can tell you is that this person who wrote this review feels safe walking around downtown, even though we have homeless people in the downtown area. Now again, this is something that you need to determine for yourself if it's an issue or not. And the best way to figure out if Salem is going to be the right place for you or not is to watch every one of my videos that I've made. I am being a little bit selfish here in saying that my videos are pretty damn good, but just watch them and then decide for yourself. And we can circle back to this topic if you're just like, oh my God, those are terrible videos. But I hope not. At the end of the day, Salem is not the right place for everyone. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to research it up and down until you are just blue in the face. Let's pull up the 2-star review and see what these people have to say about living in little old Salem, Oregon. 2-star review says, Salem is ridden with homeless people and considered very unsafe. There's a good amount of litter and the traffic is terrible, especially near the West Salem Bridge. There isn't much variation when it comes to shopping. Let's break this down because now we have a few comments that talk about the homeless issue in Salem and people's general feeling of safety in the city. Like I mentioned earlier, I come from a big city and I don't find the homeless crisis that severe here in Salem. I actually think that the city does a really good job of mitigating these issues. But again, I'm coming from Portland where the homelessness crisis is so much worse than it is here in Salem. So from my perspective, Salem feels very different than Portland and actually feels a lot better in almost every aspect of the homeless crisis. But this topic is something that is true for all of Oregon. We do not know how to handle our homelessness crisis, and you will see that in almost every single city here in Oregon. This reviewer also mentioned that there's a good amount of litter and that the traffic is terrible, especially near the West Salem Bridge. I would agree that the city's streets and sidewalks could be more litter-free, but compared to a larger city, I think that this is actually a really clean city. So that really comes down to your own perspective, and so does the traffic situation. There is no denying, though, that the West Salem Bridge, which is located on the edge of downtown Salem and connects downtown Salem to West Salem, it is so fucking bad during rush hour. There is always going to be some level of traffic on that bridge, which is a big reason why people either love West Salem or they want to avoid it like the plague. The traffic here in general is going to add anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes to your daily commute time. Now, personally, the traffic here, it is a breeze. If you're used to sitting in big city traffic and you have to wait 45 minutes just to go 5 miles on a good day, you're gonna feel like the traffic here is nothing. But to this reviewer's point, if you grew up in Salem, yes, the traffic is absolutely going to have gotten worse over time because the city has grown so much over the years. One other point to bring up is that this city is 100% car dependent. We do not have ample public transportation infrastructure, which means that every single person from 16 years old to 80 years old is driving around in Salem. And this personally is one of my largest gripes about Salem. The fact that you cannot walk anywhere. I love the idea of living in a city where I can walk to my favorite grocery store, walk to my favorite bar, and not have to think about getting into my car and driving to get to all of the things I need to do outside of my house. But the reality is that Salem, it's just car dependent. So if you don't have a car, you might have a little bit challenging time getting around in this city. I love that this reviewer brought up shopping because I don't know if they're talking about grocery shopping or clothing shopping, but yeah, I would agree. The shopping here, it is atrocious. I love to go shop and just meander around the mall and find stuff that I don't really, need, but I still buy anyways. But we just don't have good shopping here. We just recently only got a Nordstrom's rack, but let me tell you, the good shopping, it's not located in Salem. Even the Nordstrom's rack that we have here is kind of depressing. So if you're like me and you like to shop, you're gonna have to go north to get your shopping fix on. We do have a whole heck of a lot of strip mall type shopping. So we've got your Targets, your TJ Maxx, your DSW shoes, your Marshalls, your Ultas, your Ross. But trust me when I say that the selection is going to be limited. We do have a mall in the heart of downtown Salem, but it is so incredibly depressing. But if you're feeling grumpy and you just want to wear sweatpants and you don't want to see or talk to anybody, you should go to the mall in downtown Salem, because that is the exact vibe that it gives off. It is depressing as hell, and you will feel depressed as you walk through that mall. We have made it to the end, so we're gonna rip Salem a new one and go over our 1-star review. This review says, many Salem locals tout its geographical advantages, as it's halfway between Portland, an hour north, and then Eugene, an hour and a half to the south, and to the coast. Salem is also located on the 45th parallel, the halfway point between the North Pole and the equator. This all may sound very positive. However, the feelings that abound when living here is one of limbo. Crime rates rising, it becomes a ghost town on any given night of the week after 8 to 9 p.m., and the institutional government side of Salem seems to cast a cognitive pall over the city, as it's the home of the state hospital, government offices, and prisons. There are hidden gems, parks, some music venues, some good restaurants. Conveniences are at hand. However, given the conveniences that are available, one can find it hard to leave. The song Hotel California is apropos when pondering the impact Salem has on its locals' collective psyche. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Woo! Let's break this down. This person mentioned the city shutting down at 8 to 9 p.m. And I'm actually going to counter this and say that the city feels like it shuts down closer to 6 p.m. on any given night. My thought around this is that downtown Salem feels like a destination and not really a space to hang out in. And even though downtown Salem is really the heart of the city where the majority of restaurants and retail shopping are located, it does feel like a ghost town. Everything shuts down so early. And so I don't know, downtown, it's not like high energy evenings that you might find in a bigger city. So this person is spot on. This reviewer also mentioned that the institutional and government side of Salem seems to cast a cognitive pall over the city, as it is the home of the state hospital, government offices, and the prisons. Now, if you're familiar with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, that was actually shot at the state hospital here in Salem. So again, this person is 100% correct. We do have Oregon State Hospital here, and of course we have the state capitol. So we have a lot of government offices, and we do have prisons located around the city. If you don't want to live next to a prison, when you hire me to be your real estate agent, you need to say clarity. I don't want to live next to a prison, and I will make sure that you do not live next to a prison. But this is the state capital, so we have certain things in Salem that might not be found in other cities around Oregon. This reviewer also mentioned that the city of Salem has this feeling of Hotel California that you can check out, but you can never actually leave. And I agree with this person again. This goes back to my point that so many people were born and raised in Salem and they've just never really left. And it has that cliquey vibe and everyone knows everyone. And I think that does have an impact on the city. When people leave, when people travel and experience other cultures, tastes, sounds, and peoples, it really has an impact on the vibe of any place around the world. But Salem does give off this feeling that nobody ever leaves. And I'm not so sure that this is necessarily a good or bad thing, but I think the effect of it is certainly led to more of this like muted mixing of people here. And don't get me wrong, we do have people from all around the world living in Salem, but there is something about it that does feel very homogenous. You might be wondering, Clarity, how do you get around that? And the answer is, you leave. You go on vacation. You go to Turkey, to the beaches in the middle of winter because it's so cold and rainy here. And you go live your life outside of Salem. Salem is great for many things. And I'm incredibly happy that my husband and we ditched the city of Portland and we relocated to Salem because it really does work with our season of life better. But Salem is not perfect by any means. But I know for myself and my husband, it has become a sanctuary away from the city of Portland that we've grown to appreciate over the years. It was not easy moving to Salem and feeling like I didn't have a tribe of people when I got here. But over time, the city has really grown and developed, and I've become more integrated into the community, which has helped me appreciate the city of Salem that much more. And after watching this video, you might decide that Salem isn't the right place for you. And that's okay. But if you're watching this video and you feel like, oh my God, I am so much more resolute in the feeling that Salem is the right place for me, then make sure you reach out to me so that we can plan your relocation plan here to Salem. If you enjoyed this video, you are going to want to watch this one next. Bye, friends.